EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. John, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother? As we get close to another week, we're less than 2 weeks away from training camp, brother.
Yeah, exciting times as we go through the dog days of summer. Are we in the dog days of summer? Not really. I guess that would be August. But from a football perspective, we are.
Football, this is the dog days of football summer.
This is the dog days of football summer. A little bit of news yesterday in that confirmation that the Eagles ring ceremony is going to be July 18th, which we already knew because Isaiah Rodgers had dropped it at Devontae's softball game, and Anaya Smith dropped it at his youth football camp down in Texas. I had saw that, so was kind of known, but made official that it's going to be Friday, July 18th.
That's pretty cool. I'm excited to see what the rings look like. Think they're going to be popping? I don't know. Sometimes I'm let down by championship rings.
Yeah, I don't. They're going to be garish. That's, you always try to outdo what you did before. So right. I think they spent like $50,000 on the first ring. So I'm sure it'll be better than that. Just the nature of it, and I'm sure everybody. The first time Jeffrey Lurie gave it to everybody in the organization, so I'm sure he'll do that as well.
Yeah, we'll see if there's any diamonds in that thing. Will the diamonds be lab grown, John, or will they?
I don't know that much about diamonds other than there's going to be a lot of diamonds in there.
Will they be lab grown? Potentially. Lab grown is the new fad, John, and diamonds. It's basically that they don't come
to get away from blood diamonds, blah, blah,
blah. Yeah. So that's the new thing, and they're much cheaper. So we'll say maybe, but they're easily reproducible as compared to the real diamonds. So we'll see what they end up doing. I'm looking forward to seeing what those look like. We got a great show planned for everybody. Good to see all of you guys in here. Dream Green is in here. Little G. Master Eagle Joe Whip. Joe, what's up, Joe? I haven't seen you in a little bit. Good to see you in here. Texas T, Eduardo Reza, and Bird Gang Girl. A couple of our great supporters that are in here again today. We appreciate all of you guys for being here. John, we've been running down the top 25. We'll get into that. It is the dead time, though, Johnny Max. Another show with you and I here on a Thursday, July 10th. Already it's July 10th. I feel like yesterday was July 4th, and now we're July 10th. Like, time is just cooking, Johnny Max.
Yeah, well, like I said, I like to here it's slow, and you try to get through it and slog through it. From a writing perspective, it's a pain in the ass because you're trying to get up to speed with training camp previews and all that kind of stuff. And I embargoed Nick Sirianni interviews and yada, yada, yada. You got to transcribe.
Embargoed Sirianni interviews. What does that mean?
It means you can't talk about it until a certain date. And that's, I've hinted at that in the past, that as training camp grows closer, you're going to see a lot of sort of Nick's sentiments and coming off the Super Bowl and what he's trying to do and keeping the team on track. And anybody who's paid attention to him knows it. It's about the moment, it's about the process, that type of thing. But his actual words will come out closer to training camp. And so from that perspective, it's a very
embargoing something like that.
Well, it's something that, for those who don't know, it's really, one of the few things we get as writers, reporters, that nobody else gets. So it's important. I would say, I don't think, because there's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about, but it gives you a tremendous background on the team and understanding of what's going on. And, I think a lot of people don't understand that, but they value it, if that makes sense, because they get the right information as opposed to speculation. I always talk about, and not that I don't speculate, because you have to speculate. So there's a give and take, and you can't just, hey, this is real. This is real. This is what I know. I try to do it as much as possible. This is what I know versus this is what I think. But there's a lot of people that don't have that access, that just speculate all day. And I think a lot of people have trouble.
Isn't that, and I'm not picking on you, and I understand the nature of the times, so don't take it personal, but isn't that in a way contradictory to what the nature of a beat reporter is, right? Like the team gives me information that I can't talk about. Wouldn't that a little bit be contradictory to what a reporter is when you're trying to get out the information, whether good, bad, indifferent?
No, it's the exact opposite. It's called background, on background. And it's done, because it helps the Eagles as well. In much larger things, you can go all the way up to the White House and politics and
oh yeah, well, you know what happens there. I'm just saying, in general.
No,
yeah.
I mean that has been a part of journalism when journalism was journalism for 100 years.
So it's different. It's a different process than uncovering something that you would reveal. Okay.
No, that part is also been lost. Like that's I'll go into Don Van Natta today because we talked a little bit about the NFLPA and the collusion stuff, and I talked about this is a much bigger deal from the NFLPA aspect than the NFL aspect. When that came out, when Florio played it up about the grievance and collusion accusations and things like that. Now, all of a sudden, Don Van Natta, who's probably the best investigative sports reporter in the country with Seth Wickersham and ESPN, partially because they're given the opportunity to do this stuff and the time, because it's very time consuming.
Yes, I can see
so
that.
He just broke a story today that said the NFLPA head, Lloyd Howell, also works for a firm approved to invest in the NFL. So all this stuff is coming out about Lloyd Howell, who hid this grievance result from the players, which I said at the time was the bigger deal. Like, oh, NFL owners don't want to pay Deshaun Watson contracts. Like, that's not news. We all know that. Now, from a legal perspective, and that was not illegal. That was a CBA arbitration case, so it doesn't have any legal authority. So people need to understand that as well. But from the standpoint of the NFLPA hid that from its own constituency. So I can sit there and today when it comes out an hour ago, and people can check it out at TBN Junior on X. When this kind of stuff starts coming out, and he's got on top of that, he's got a conflict of interest working for a firm approved to invest in the National Football League. You can see all the problems that they could cause. Like maybe he doesn't want to hurt the NFL,
right?
Because he's investing in the NFL. And Don also uncovered that one of the union lawyers asked him to consider resigning from that role, and he refused.
That's it. Is this story going to get big headlines, or is it going to be another one of those? No,
well, I don't think it's sort of complicated in the weeds, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of who Lloyd.
So Lloyd Howell joins a group 3 months before the NFLPA hires him to represent or to be the
no. He was already there, that part, but he was asked to resign, refused. So you have to. I mean, the players. I think ultimately Lloyd Howell's not going to be around. That's my thought. He's not going to be around long after this because and maybe the perception is always greater than the reality, but it doesn't look good. And already he's got quotes from some of the players. Oren Burks declined, no surprise to me from knowing Oren, who's a BP, declined to talk about it, but he's got other people on the record. So that's reporting. Getting back to your original question, that's reporting. But everybody at any level who does this for a living gets stuff on background if you have access. And that's sort of, and we've been doing this for years with the head coach. Not just not just Nick Sirianni, but Doug Peterson. And I've only been here for those two guys, but we've been doing this every year. So it's not new. It's not anything of that nature. In fact, it's been scaled back. It used to be much longer. I go back many, many years where we had much more access in different cities. I used to walk around the practice field with Mike Tice every day. Most days, not every day, but he'd like to get his exercise by walking around the practice field in between two-a-days. And, just talk about football and the team.
Right. Good explanation there, Johnny Mac. I might have sounded dumb asking it, but I think people will learn something from your explanation. It makes a lot of sense now to me. John, we got plenty of stuff to talk about here coming in. We'll follow along with that Van Natta story, too, now that we just talked about it a little bit. We'll see what ends up happening there. Let's get into the Eagles a little bit, John. We've been running down our top 25. It's been a good list, I would say. I've been pretty impressed with you and Kratzy's list. I don't know how much change you could have in a list like this, but I didn't like where Goddard fell, where Devontae Smith fell, where Cooper DeJean fell over Landon. Who else did I thought should have been higher? Vaughn at 11 we talked about that a little bit, but now we are down to number 6. Number 7 was Cooper DeJean, pretty crazy for the Rook. Number 8 was Landon Dickerson. Number 9 was Devontae Smith. John, I think that's where I would have put Coop right there. 9, below Quignon at 10. Well, I probably would have had Vaughn a little bit above her. And then you have Devontae, Landon. That would make more sense to me with those two guys ahead of Cooper. But I see why he did. I see why Ed did what he did to some extent. But now we're down to 7 with 6 on the radar, Johnny Mac. Number 6, we are down. We're reaching the conclusion of this list. Who is number 6 on the top 25 Eagles list from SI?
Well, again, I think it's a little bit too low, and that's Jordan Mailata, number 6, who, if you believe, it's interesting to me when I talk about pedigree a lot, and we all know Jordan's story by now, 7th-round pick. And kind of amazing he was even a 7th-round pick, and the Eagles invested that into him. But never played a down of American football, became an international player, got drafted. So he lost that exemption. They couldn't use him. Now they use it on Lakin Al-Hahi. I always screw up his name.
Al-Hahi, yeah, whatever it is.
But he has an exemption. Jordan never had an exemption because he was drafted. And that meant they had to keep him on the roster, and they did. And I tell the story all the time. I remember by year 3, like people were forgetting about Jordan Mailata. It was like, all right, well, this isn't going to work. And why would it work? And it's kind of silly to think about it working. And now, I remember being in the back of the Eagles locker room, being the only one talking to him. The 1 year is on injured reserve because, he had a back injury, I think it was at the time, and couldn't practice, and he was a little bit down. And I think everybody, that would probably be year 2. I think everybody was kind of saying, all right, well, this isn't going to work. And then all of a sudden you go into, I guess it was the 21 season, injuries crop up. And I still remember his first game vividly because we're all saying, oh, this is going to be a disaster. They were playing San Francisco, and Nick Bosa was healthy, and you're like, this is not going to be good. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And I swear to you, from that day on, he just took off like a jet. And to the point where he's become arguably the best left tackle in football. And I only say arguably because for whatever reason, people still go back to the pedigree and say, well, how could you put him ahead of Tristan Wirfs, who's having, by the way, surgery that broke yesterday, or somebody like that?
Oh, yeah,
or,
yeah.
Because he's better. PFF had him as the best player in football, regardless of position last year. Regardless of position.
Player, yeah.
Regardless.
95.2 grade on PFF last year. He had.
And he did make it. He didn't even make the Pro Bowl.
That is insane.
Now, he was second team All Pro, so the people who know a little bit better did realize how good he was. And he did miss some time last season with an injury. So he missed, I think it was 4 games, where Fred Johnson kind of persevered a little bit. So Fred deserves credit for that. But so a lot of people said that was held against him, but that's kind of bull crap. I mean,
still had over 1,000 snaps last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if you include the postseason. But remember, they played 4 games in the postseason. So and that, but the only point I say there is it matters in his playing, but remember Pro Bowl, and I think a lot of people have trouble with this, and All Pro and all the awards, it's a regular season thing. Doesn't include the playoffs. And a lot of people say, well, it should. Well, it doesn't. So it doesn't. So missing 4 games in the regular season does hurt a little bit, but I mean, Pro Bowl, come on. He still hasn't made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, but
he was second team All Pro last year. And from the moment, so 2021, he was third of 83 when it came to his PFF grade. Third of 83 tackles who were ranked. 2022 was his worst year. He was 9th of 81. So he's still top 10. 2023, he was 3rd of 81. And last year is number 1 of 81. And by the way, he was the second best in pass blocking and the best in run blocking.
Yep.
Just an amazing story. I talk about it all the time. An amazing player. Just, he's about 380 now. 6'8". And he's just incredibly athletic for being that size. You just don't see people that big and that strong that are athletic as Jordan Mailata. And, Stoutland helped. He was the one who coined Stoutland University. So they're helping each other because now Stout gets all the merchandise. For charity.
Right. That was a big coin, that name.
Yeah. Because he went on, he did that when they introduced the players. Yeah. Exactly. And he said Jeff Stoutland University. And I bring that up because, and Stoutland has said this to me on a couple of occasions. Usually when you get a player from college, even a top tier player, you're correcting something or you're trying to improve something they did wrong. He didn't know how to do anything. So Stoutland got him from the ground floor.
Right.
Didn't have to break any bad habits to rebuild. Sometimes that's easier. And in the case of Jordan Mailata, it's worked beyond anybody's wildest imagination. I always give Brian Baldinger and Ross Tucker a credit because they identified, and they're former offensive linemen, they identified very early to the point I kind of laughed at them. I admitted to them. I admitted to their face. I go, guys, settle down. He never played football before. And they ended up being right. But, and I also say this to Baldy and Ross, and good-naturedly, I would have liked to see you guys, what you were saying year 3 when he wasn't playing at all. And everybody was kind of down on it and saying, this isn't going to work. Because even Stoutland said when he got his opportunity, we asked him, is he ready? And Stoutland, very honest, very Vic Fangio-like, said, I have no idea. I hope so. But you don't know until you see it.
Right.
And so many people along the way, Jordan's given credit to. Joe Osman, people forget him, Smoking Joe, he calls him. Well, Raven Clark is a guy he talks, a veteran tackle. Tore his Achilles last year, was more of a practice squad guy, but knows how to play, was a big influence on him. And obviously Stoutland being number one, but also Lane Johnson. Like, you know, it's funny. I had a discussion with Jordan last year, and I asked him, I said, do you know what your PFF grades are? And he said, yeah, mainly from his wife, puts it in a group text because she likes to brag about it.
Right.
And rightfully so. And then he just went into, you know, I shouldn't be higher than Lane. So that's the kind of respect he has for Lane Johnson. And Jason Kelsey and all those guys who sort of mentored him and as he grew up along the way. And now it's funny, guy never played American football. You could argue he's the biggest leader on this team as well. He's become a captain.
Yep.
It's a really amazing story.
He's got an infectious personality too.
Oh, he's got a huge
personality.
People gravitate towards him. He's good at everything, you know, the music stuff. It's weird. Some people are just like that. It's an amazing story that I think, and everybody knows it, and we've talked about it a lot, but it's still, we don't talk about it enough. What this has turned into.
It's incredible. It really is. And my mommy points out when he brought up when he sang Tennessee Whiskey, he is a man of many talents. Can anybody in the chat, without looking it up, I know he was a 7th round draft pick. What was the actual number selection that Jordan Mailata was selected? If anybody gets it without looking it up, we'll give you some credit here on the show. John, how does he go up from here? Has he finally gotten over the hump, John, of, okay, it's time to give the guy some Pro Bowl nods, all right? Some first-team All-Pro. How is this guy not made a Pro Bowl? I mean, this last 4 years, John, third out of 83, 9th out of 81, as you pointed out, 3rd out of 81, and 1st out of 81. And he doesn't have a Pro Bowl? Come on.
Pedigree, man. Pedigree.
Has he gotten over it? There you go. And Villain got it.
Well, he did. You know, the second All-Pro is second team All is more important than Pro Bowl. So
yes, it is. But still, I'd like to see it for the player. You know, look, John, we talked.
Well, normally you say it about contracts and all. He already got 2 contracts, $260 million
right.
contracts.
No, but I just think at the end of the day, you know what I mean? When a career.
Well, I think it'll matter when you're talking about Hall of Fame down the road.
Right.
I think it'll matter. But that's always, you know, iffy anyway. Especially with positions that reporters and people have tough time understanding and grading, which I would say offensive line is one of them. We talked about how many players are on Hall of Fame trajectories. Jordan's entering his 8th season, I believe, and he's only 28. So he's got a chance to play 4 or 5 years at least at this level. And if he does that, he's a Hall of Fame player. Yeah. And, you know, still as late as 2021, I guess, when they started training camp, they wanted Andre Dillard to win the job.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So, I mean, pedigree resonates far more than just.
Is that the year that Stoutland said that, by the way? We'll see if he's ready. Was that the Dillard year?
No, that was the year he was forced to play San Francisco. I forget. I'm probably conflating years. His first start was against San Francisco. But I have to look back. And that was when we just happened to talk to him that week, and it was like, I don't know. He was crossing his fingers like everybody else. And it looked bad on paper, and it wasn't bad. He held up against one of the best pass rushers in football. And he just took off from there. He just took off. And even that year when they were going back and forth, it was a legitimate competition. Like, I've talked a lot about Tyler Steen. So if they had one practice, Dillard would start
Right.
and then the next Mailata, and then Dillard, Mailata.
I think Dillard got the first one too in camp at the start of camp.
Yeah, Dillard was first. And they kept going back and forth. So it was a legitimate competition. Then Dillard, I think, hurt him. I forget what the injury was, but he injured, and then it was just Mailata's job. Very similar to last year with Tyler Steen when he got hurt, and it was just Mekhi Becton stepped in, and that was it. Except they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it was a lot closer. Tyler Steen was getting all the first team reps last year, and I think he's going to get all the first team reps this year. So to me, it's not as much as a legitimate competition.
Yep. Ilan Villain, by the way, got the draft selection. So put that in your knowledge bank. Everybody listening, 233. Remember that. That's where Jordan Mailata was selected. Maybe we'll go down as one of the better Eagles offensive linemen in history. Dare I say that? I think he's on that type of trajectory. We will see. John, as he continues to develop and get better and better and better, I don't know how much better the guy can get. He's basically at the top of the league. But how about that left side of the offensive line, how him and Landon have kind of grown together. And now when I look at those two, I'm like, what a match made in heaven for the left side of an offensive line. I feel like those two are so complementary to each other. What do you have to say about the way that they play together and just how dominant the left side of the offensive line is?
Yeah, and they're like best friends on the team as well. Jordan was best man at Landon's wedding.
Wow, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I knew he was at the wedding. I didn't know he was the best man, though.
Yeah. Might have been vice versa. I think it was Landon's wedding. I don't know. Some of the celebrity Eagles fans will correct me if I'm wrong. One or the other. They both got married, but they're really good friends. I mean, really good friends off the field. Best left side in football by far, I would say. And I mean, two of the top 8 players on our list. Landon was 8, Jordan was 6, and I had them higher. I had Jordan at 5 and Landon at 6 on my personal list. That's probably
you had him at 5, you said?
I had Jordan at 5,
okay.
and I had Landon at 6 on my personal list.
There's one specific player I thought Mailata would have came in front of, but he didn't come in. What do you think? 6 is too low for Jordan? I think
I do. I
had him at 5.
Not a ton. I had him at 5, but you can argue he should be higher. I mean, he's the highest graded player in football by
right.
And part of it is for me, like, Jordan will not say that he's better than Lane ever, as long as he lives. And I'm not saying he is. But you can make the argument he is, but he just will not acknowledge that. That's how much respect he has for Lane Johnson. And he will say it's not even close.
And at the surface, isn't he playing a harder position? Left was always looked at as, harder than right.
Or generally, it's not as much as it was in years past, but it's generally considered still to be the toughest. And then some of the other guys that are ahead of them, skill position players, that factors into it. People are enamored by skill position players. And Jalen Carter's immense talent. Like right now, I mean, if you're just going to say, all right, who had a better season last year? Jordan Mailata certainly had a better season than arguably any of them. But pedigree's still a thing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You think he's over that hump? I think he might be. I think he's got.
Yeah, I think the All-Pro thing got him over, and I voted for him to be All-Pro, first team All-Pro, by the way. And he should have been first team All-Pro last year, but it is what it is. He got over it, and for him, I mean, got life-changing money twice, and he's happy. And he's happy to be part of this team and be a leader on this team. And again, maybe down the road, it hurts him when you start talking about Hall of Fame trajectory. But other than that, he's already made his money. So I don't think it affects him that much.
Yeah, you talk about the story, John, of him and how incredible the story is. What part of that story do you think is most worthy of extended conversation when the career is done and dusted? What do you think? Will there be a 30 for 30? I mean, what part of it sticks out to you the most?
The ground floor aspect of it. He literally had to be told how to put on his helmet when he started playing football. Why would he know? Was an Australian rugby player.
I'd love to ask Jordan, like, when did it click for you? When did you look and say, I belong in the NFL? Like, I can do this.
I've asked him that question. He one of the funniest things is Joe Osman, who I brought up earlier, for people that remember Joe. Joe used to torture Jordan in one-on-ones. Joe was a great pass rusher in college. He was going to play. He was earning on the verge of earning a role when he tore his ACL. And then his career went in a downward trajectory. Jim Schwartz was using him as sort of an inside rusher. He was very undersized, very quick. And you can imagine Jordan at 6'8". Now, one-on-ones in Stoutland will tell you it's far easier for the pass rusher than the offensive lineman. So you have to bake that into it. But, Joe used to torture him. And yeah, his head would, drop a little bit at times, and that's where Kelsey comes in and Lane comes in. And you got to explain, like, he doesn't know that probably. You go up, if you're an offensive lineman, you're doing one-on-ones in high school and college, like, what it is.
Right.
And you're going to get beat, and somebody's going to even Lane Johnson, even, Brandon Graham would occasionally beat Lane Johnson in one-on-ones. Oh, Lane got beat. He doesn't give a shit. He knows what it is. But if you're trying to build that confidence, it could have a negative effect. And, but he just took it because, and that's where I give Lane and Jason Kelsey and some of the other guys, down to people like LaRaven Clark, a ton of credit, because they made him understand what it is, and use it to get better, and use it to get better. And Jordan loves Joe Osman, by the way. And he just used it all to get better and better and better. And he always had more God-given gifts than everybody else. So that's where it starts. He's just bigger and stronger than everybody else, and faster. Anybody who's as strong as him isn't as fast as him. And anybody who's as fast as him isn't as strong as him. So it's one of those things where, he's got better God-given gifts than everybody else. He's sort of like Joel Embiid, but with a work ethic.
Yeah. It's actually a great comp.
Now at it, obviously at a much less profiled position. A lot of people don't, as I say.
Right.
Offensive linemen are probably more famous in Philadelphia than anywhere else, but still, compared to skill position players or superstars in other sports, they're not in that realm. But he's got that kind of talent at his particular position.
You talked about the story of Baldy, and Ross Tucker saying early about it. You've covered it the whole time, John. You've been here the whole time for Mailata. when did it switch for you from this is a good story to holy shit, this guy is like a Hall of Fame level player? When did it switch for you, or when did you notice that switch?
Oh, probably not till 2023, to be honest. I mean, because even when he starts playing well early, and you say, all right, well, people will adjust and
Right.
figure it out. And, maybe he doesn't have the technique, and that's where Stoutland comes in, and people will ultimate, and they just left him out there. That's another thing. The Eagles have the best luxury for an offensive play caller, offensive coordinator, whether it's Shane Steichen or Brian Johnson or Kellen Moore or Kevin Patullo. I don't care who it is. They have a big advantage over every other offensive coordinator because the Eagles are the only team, and I mean only team in the NFL that starts every week with, we don't have to help our tackles. And they kept leaving him out there by himself, and you start to go, whoa, I mean, they really trust this guy.
Right.
And he just keeps producing and producing.
And then on top of that, by the way, he was delivering the goods out there alone. Yeah.
And he keeps, stoning people, producing. And but there's always that doubt because of the pedigree. It's like, I freely admit when Baldy and Ross Tucker got their first looks at him, because he is so big and they're offensive linemen and they know how rare it is. And when you're that big and you can move like he does, that's what they were enamored with. And it's just so rare. But yeah, I kind of chuckled at it. I'm like, come on, the guy just got here. Give him a break.
Right.
And they were right. So I give them their due. They're just due. But a lot of people factored into that, from Stoutland to all the guys I mentioned.
Is he your favorite player story on the team right now? From a macro?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd have to be. And now that Brandon's retired, I always joke my favorite Eagle is either, people ask me that a lot, who's my favorite Eagle? And I joke it's the bald Eagle they bring out at training camp because he's the best Eagle ever.
Very McMullen answer, I'll say that.
Or I'll say like Glenn Fry or Don Henley from the band. Because I don't, I'm not a fan.
Those aren't the dudes that they cut, right?
Who? No, that's the band, the Eagles.
No, what's the band? They got rid of a band last year, though. What was that band called?
Oh no, the Pep.
Yeah, the Pep band. That's it.
No, the Eagles are like one of the most popular bands of all time. The like real music.
Yeah, the real band.
So anyway,
got rid of the Pep band.
So I always say, Glenn Fry or Don Henley, but in all seriousness, just from a person, it was always Brandon Graham for years. I mean, because you can't not like Brandon Graham, but it's just on a personal level. And now I would say Jordan's in that category. You can't not like Jordan Mailata. Again, people gravitate towards him. So from all aspects of it, yeah, it's by far the best story on the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. How much credit, John, in the story do you give Jeff Stoutland? I mean, obviously we talk about him as one of the best offensive line coaches in the game, maybe ever. And Mailata is probably his best story of an individual player that he's developed. Obviously, a lot still goes on Jordan. You talked about the physical gifts he's been given by God and some of those different things. But how much credit does Jeff Stoutland get? This is one that I think he'll be telling this story on his deathbed, maybe.
Yeah, he should. I mean, of all the great offensive linemen that Jeff Stoutland has tutored, this is the lead student. This is the guy you advertise for Jeff Stoutland University. Because, Lane Johnson was the 4th pick in the draft. Supposed to be great.
Exactly.
Landon Dickerson, we talked about him earlier in the week because he's number 8 on our list. And, he was the 37th pick, but he would have been a first-round pick if he didn't tear his ACL. Cam Jurgens, high-level pick. It developed a good player, no question about it. So on and on and on. He's had so many great offensive linemen, but this is a guy he built from the ground floor, as I said. And I go back to the Alliance of American Football. I tell this story a lot. It was me and Damo asked Stout, because at the time, Charlie Ebersol was kind of a con man, was trying to pretend like the NFL was going to get in business with the AAF as a developmental league, which the NFL would never do. They have a free developmental league. It's called college football. So they would never do that. But anyway, he was starting to talk about it. Charlie Ebersol. So we asked Jeff Stoutland, would you like, because at the time, Mailata was just a developmental player. And we asked him, hey, would you ever consider sending him over to the AAF to get some reps? And Stoutland was like, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want somebody else getting their hands on him, because again, maybe they have some bad habits, whatever they teach. And he just wanted no part of it.
Yeah, I can't blame him for that.
Yeah. So that part of it is kind of understandable from now that I think about it from Stoutland's standpoint. But certainly, yeah, he's a big part of it. I mean, he's the best developmental offensive line coach in the league. And that goes far beyond Jordan Mailata, but it's also the lead bullet point of his resume. It works both ways.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A couple last questions for you on Jordan Mailata. Is it fair to say he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory? Is it too late? I mean, I know you just kind of said if he has a couple more years like this, you think he would get there. What do you think it takes to get Jordan Mailata into the Hall of Fame, which would be an unbelievable finish for him if he got to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he plays, he's only 28. I brought that up. He started very young.
Yeah, and look at Lane playing this good at 35. I'm sure Jordan looked at that and is like, boy, I got some time left.
Yeah, I mean, if he 4 or 5 years, but that's where it matters that he starts piling up all pros and Pro Bowls. It does matter when you start talking about Hall of Fame. But to me, yeah, he's definitely on the trajectory. He's played at a Hall of Fame level for 3-4 years now. But you have to do it from a longer perspective. And, a lot of people say Saquon. I heard somebody saying this morning that he wasn't. And I'm like, he isn't, but he is. And I've tried to explain that because of his reputation, because of his pedigree. I think he's already a Hall of Famer. He's already getting in. Can't prove that. He's already getting in. Ultimately, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And part of it is because he came out as the second overall pick, and he was spun as this great, rare talent. And even though he struggled from a perspective of being on a bad team with the New York Giants from a team perspective, he showed signs. But the minute he clicked here, went over, forget about 2000 to 2,504, won a Super Bowl. As long as he plays 3 more years at an acceptable level, he's going in. With Jordan, you don't have that cachet.
Right.
A lot of things factor into it. So it's a little bit
28, man. If he plays at this level or comparable to this level till he's Lane Johnson's age, I think he's shoo-in Hall of Famer. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. The offensive line's a little bit tougher to gauge. John, last question. An Aussie who never puts on a helmet comes to America and gets drafted by the Eagles in the 7th round, 233 overall, and becomes what he has become. what kind of an impact do you think that could have on the global game? I know the NFL has been trying to push that. Eagles fans might not give a shit about this question, but I am interested in it. Do you think it opens up more of a pipeline for global players or global people to try and get into the league? I mean, it's kind of the best success story, right? I mean, this guy never played football, and now he's making $20 million a year being one of the best offensive linemen in football. Do you think it could open up more of that?
Yeah, I mean, it helps. The Eagles are trying to do it again with Lakin, who's also an Australian rugby player.
Yeah.
But to me, the issue with international in the NFL is nobody plays football overseas. Like you see basketball and hockey, they've invaded essentially because everybody plays it. It's getting better, but people generally play it at a very low level overseas, wherever, Australia, Europe, wherever. So you're not developing players good enough to play in the NFL. If that changes, and I don't think it will, but if that changes, sure. But football is such a uniquely American sport. It's very niche, I would say, outside of this country. And it's not the same as basketball or hockey or something of that nature, where, some of the best players in the world in basketball are now Europeans and elsewhere. Same thing with hockey. So, and that's because it's popular. They're playing it from, when they're 7, 8 years old, same as here. So it becomes, the gap was closing the minute the original dream team in basketball. You can talk more about hockey, but the minute the original dream team destroyed everybody, the gap was closing because basketball became so popular on a worldwide basis. And that meant kids over there were picking it up and becoming the Djokovic's of the world and people like that. So, yeah.
Pretty amazing story that Jordan Mailata is a 95.2 offense grade last year on PFF, first out of 81 tackles. He was the first out of 72 tackles in run blocking grade, 94.6, second out of 80 in pass block grade with a 90.8. Unbelievable for Jordan Mailata. And he falls at number 6 on the SI top 25 Eagles list. Well done there, Johnny Mac. What a great player. What a great story. What a great conversation. And, man, I am excited to see what Jordan does for the rest of his career because, as you point out, he is 28, but, boy, he could have a little bit of an extended shelf life here in Philly. I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. It's hard. It's one thing to go from can't put my helmet on to here. It's a big climb. It's a lot harder to go up from here, Johnny Mac, but I still think Jordan could, man.
Yeah, I don't know how much higher you can go.
I don't know.
This is about maintenance, so to speak. I don't expect him to be a highest rated player again, but hey, who knows? It's hard when you're number one to continue to be number one, but I do expect him to be in the conversation to be the best left tackle in football for the next at least 3-4 years.
Yeah, good stuff there from Jordan Mailata. Great segment. And he comes in at number 6 again. Appreciate everybody being here. Any super chats that we get, we will hit. Any comments we get that are worthy, we will pull up on the screen. If I see them, it's hard to see as many are coming in. Angelo, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Kimberly, good to see you. Real Zeal, Dawood, Mike Fittery. What's up, everybody? We appreciate all of you guys. Thank you, gang. Appreciate everybody for being here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got plenty of stuff still to talk about. Got about an hour and 6 minutes left to play here on Birds 365. So we'll continue to break some stuff down, dive into the training camp previews and whatnot, and see maybe we'll tap into what Johnny Mac's been writing over on SI. So we'll tap into that. Appreciate you all being here. Hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Thrill Seekers and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Give us follows on X, everybody, at Zander Krause. I'm on Instagram as well, if you're over there, and at JF McMullen on X. We appreciate all of you guys for connecting. I've had a couple people connect with me this week and in the last couple of weeks, so good talking with everybody. I love connecting, so definitely go over there and do that if you enjoy the show, or you want to connect. If you don't, that's fine too. We appreciate you. Johnny Mack, I want to get into some training camp conversations as we are really close now. We are under 2 weeks until training camp, under 2 weeks until the first practice is in the books, and I think 12 days now until they report to camp. So we are cruising right along. It's July 10th. They report the 22nd, and they're on the field the 23rd. And I've been following some of your work over on SI.com, and you wrote up a couple of days ago, John, about the uncertainty on the edge. And I want to tap into that a little bit. I know we've talked about it a lot this offseason, but I do think it's probably 1A or 1B in the biggest question marks coming into the year. You could probably throw secondary in there as 1A or 1B, whatever you prefer. But I think the edge is obviously the other part of that equation. When I bring that up to you, John, what do you think as we get into training camp? You got two young guys. You got Nolan and Jalix. You got some of the Timu signings that we've talked about all offseason. How much are they hinging on these guys panning out for the 2025 football season?
Quite a bit, to the point I'm surprised. I didn't think we'd get to this position where this would be the plan at a position that the Eagles have generally put a lot of emphasis on. Like everybody else in the NFL, believes the importance of getting after the opposing passer, obviously. I did not think we would get to a point where, hey, we're going to roll the dice with Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. But that's where we are. And to me, it's dicey. But they have a lot. Obviously, they have a lot of confidence in Vic Fangio. Vic's got a big word in this, and you can see the Vic Fangio stamp from the perspective of Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt and Azeez Ojulari specifically, 3 players that can do what he wants done that Bryce Huff had trouble with, and that's the other stuff, not just rushing the passer, but setting the edge, and being able to drop into coverage as a flat defender, which is important for what he wants to do. So you have all these guys with some off-ball linebacker, in the case of Jalen Hunt, safety in his background. So they're a little bit more comfortable with the idea of dropping than a traditional defensive end. And you can even extend that to Jahad Campbell as a hybrid player when he's healthy. Similar traits as well. So you can see these are the types of players. And even if you want to go down to Patrick Johnson, who's back after some time in New Orleans, it's pretty clear that these are the types of players Vic wants. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to go get the quarterback on 3rd and 10. And if it's not Nolan Smith, it's going to get ugly.
How much do you think last year's success of the defense changed their perspective on the edge rushing room coming into this year? And what I mean by that is you had the number 1 overall defense in football by a decently wide margin. You dominated one of the best quarterbacks coach duos in the last decade, arguably of the last 20, 25 years, right there, obviously with Brady and Belichick. How much do you think that changed? I mean, they had 8.5 sacks, was their leading sack guy last year, John. They had the best defense in football. How much do you think that success, with the lack of a huge sack artist, which, by the way, conversely in 22, they had 5 guys in double digits or 4 guys in double digits?
Yeah.
How much do you think that changed their perspective coming in with what they needed from their edge rushers?
Not at all. Not remotely. Vic's a guy that's more in my category. He doesn't give a shit about the number. Their pressure percentage was off the charts. They were creating pressure. Whether they finish or not is a different discussion. And again, we've had a lot of sack discussions over the years. You have to look at each one individually and the impact. What is it? Did so-and-so run into a sack? Do you want Jason Babin, or you want a well-rounded player like Josh Sweat? And, Vic wants the well-rounded player. But they were successful getting after the quarterback, and that can mean a host of different things, including sacks, but also pressures, quarterback hits, hurries, which the Eagles were tremendous at. There's certain quarterbacks, Peyton Manning being the best example in his prime. You weren't sacking Peyton Manning. So you can talk about sacks all you want.
Right.
You weren't sacking him.
It was all about pressure on him, man. Get pressure on him and you're winning.
So that's the goal. And if you look at Vic's history, he's got no problem having big time pass rushers. He had Khalil Mack in his prime, who was defensive player of the year. He had Von Miller. He loves good pass rushers, but he also wants them to be able to do some different things, which, and I've talked about a lot. It's not as fun for the defensive lineman as the Jim Schwartz scheme, which is basically go get the quarterback on the way, play the run. That's a lot funner for guys. So you have sort of what other people call, Vic hates it, but other people call gap and a half style. So it's not attacking, it's more read and react. And But he always wants guys who can get the quarterback in those situations. Third and long, third and obvious passing. And he's had those players in his past. So it's not like he's against them. But he'll take what he had last year, which is awesome pressure percentages. And that's why it all works in concert. You know, whether it's Jalen Carter creating immediate pressure or Milton Williams, but now you have to replace Milton Williams as well.
Right.
Now, Morrow did it at a high level himself in a decent sample size. I think it was 490 snaps if you include the playoffs. Can that expand? And maybe the interior people help the outside people. But I think when you look at what they lost, Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, that's like 20 plus years. And even though they're not considered Trey Hendrickson like sack artists, it's a boatload of sacks you lost as well. And you're going into a season as the reigning Super Bowl champions with a guy who's performed for 10 games and a guy who's performed for 200 snaps.
Yeah. We're gonna get into all that in this segment here coming up. How confident, John, how confident are the Eagles? Do you think right now, maybe you have information on it, maybe you don't. I'm not really sure. Maybe you're speculating, you can clarify, but how confident are they that this group can generate pressure without a true number one guy? Right. I mean, I don't think you have a true, you had Reddick in the years past, you had BG, you had Josh Sweat last year. How confident are they in this edge group?
Well, they're projecting Nolan to be that guy. I mean, there's no question. The question, like I say, baseball, it's like there's 30. How many baseball teams? 30 now. There's 38 number one starters. There aren't 30 aces, but everybody's got a number one. So, you have to have a number one, and Nolan Smith is their number one. The question is, can he play at that level? Can he be an ace? That I have no idea. If he can, everything's fine. And if he stays healthy, which is a big part of it, if he doesn't, he got a big issue. Big issue. I mean, big. And that's why I say Nolan Smith is one of the most important players on this team this year. Because there's nobody else. You can talk yourself into, and maybe 3 years we're having a different conversation. There's no way Jay Alexander is going to take that type of leap in his first year playing significant snaps. We've seen enough of Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche to say, all right, you can maybe cross your fingers and say they can be solid rotational guys, but there's large sample sizes there. Nolan's got to be the guy, and he's got the potential to be the guy. But when you're talking about 15 years and 8 years or whatever, Josh was here 7, 8. That lack of demonstrated performance over a longer period. I'm very surprised at this particular position, the Eagles would go into this process that light. Not to say it can't work, but I'm very surprised by it.
Do you think Vic Fangio's scheme masks a lack of elite edge talent, or does it require stars? I mean, how much pressure is on the scheme to elevate the group?
You can't. I mean, as I said, the people that say that didn't watch Khalil Mack in Chicago. He'd love to have Khalil Mack in his prime.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I don't care about pass rushing. Their pass rush was arguably the best in football. I think they were second best.
Well, I mean, I don't know about, obviously you want elite players, but we talk about margin for error a lot. Does Vic's scheme create a bigger margin for error at that spot than maybe others who rely more on a dominant edge rusher?
No, I think it's harder in his scheme because he asked him to do more.
It's fair.
That's part of the problem. That's why Bryce Huff isn't here. He asked him to do more. And, that's maybe where Jahad Campbell factors into this, when he's healthy, because I think it'll be, I think people have turned the page and say, well, he's working with the off-ball linebackers, and Vic kind of explained that. Well, there's more to learn there than there is to learn as a pass rusher. But the easiest way to get him on the field early in his career would be as a situational pass rusher. And maybe if things don't go the way they want, that's where Campbell comes in when he's healthy and ready to go. So you throw his name into the mix as well, but he's also unproven as a rookie. So it's just, and when you're thinking about Myles Garrett and all the talk early in the offseason about, will the Eagles make a run at Myles Garrett, and how he explained, hey, we're not in a position to do so. It's not going to happen with Trey Henderson, not going to happen with TJ Watt. But I think everybody would be more comfortable with that type of player, including Vic Fangio.
We'll see what ends up happening. John, let's talk a little bit about Nolan Smith. We just brought him up. A lot hinging on Nolan Smith this year. He finished red hot, John. 4.5 sacks in the playoffs. He's a high motor guy. Are you buying that it's official that you're finally clicking and he's ready to be that star at the edge? Or are we over projecting now based on a flash?
Well, it depends on – I think he's a very good player. A little concerned about the lack of size. I think it's ironic that both he and Jalen are considered, and not considered, they're great athletes, so people project them as great pass rushers. And they both started better against the run, even though they're both undersized. I think that's ironic, and it's very, very weird, to be honest, that you're able to set the edge that undersized. But Nolan's a very violent player. I think he surprises people with just how physical he is despite his size. And that concerns me from the fact of he's a 237-pound guy pushing against 300-pound monsters, and most tackles are far past 300. And he tore his triceps in the Super Bowl. Can he stay healthy? That's my biggest concern. But he's a very good player, and he can do everything. He played off-ball linebacker at Georgia at times, and he played off-ball linebacker here in the playoff game against Tampa Bay, which obviously was forced into that. But he's got those skills to go laterally, and that's big in big scheme. Jalix does from his time as a safety. That's big. Aziz played some off-ball linebacker as well, so in Georgia. So you can see what he's doing. And he's got a bunch of Andrew Van Ginkel type players because they've always wanted an Andrew Van Ginkel type player. And now they got a bunch of guys, literally 4 guys who could play that role, depending on who does it best. And we'll see how it works out. But yeah, I'd like to have that base guy like Josh Sweat. I don't see that guy. I don't see him. The closest would be Antoine Powell-Ryland, the rookie. And I just don't see that guy on the team right now.
Yeah, my concern on Nolan is the injuries. I mean, he finished the season with torn triceps, obviously played through it, but I just don't know how it's going to hold up. Now, I'm very confident in the player's abilities, but I do have questions on that. I mean, how does he hold up? And you rightfully bring up all the time, the style of play is great. Doesn't typically bode well for guys who are undersized on a long enough time scale. So that's my biggest question on Nolan. But overall, I feel like the guy has all the tools needed, and he has all the talent needed to
he's very talented, very gifted. He runs a sub 4.4 as a defensive lineman, essentially. Edge defender, whatever label you want to use. Overhang player would be what Vic would use. But yeah, he's got all the athletic ability you could ever want. And he's a very good player. Very good player. But there are some concerns, the size. He's 6 coming out. He ran a 4.39, which is obscene. Coming out. He's 6. He was measured at 6'2 1/4, 238, 32 5/8 inch arm length. That's really small for an edge defender. So a little bit concerning from that standpoint.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jalix Hunt, John, a lot hinging on him coming into this year too. I mean, Nolan and Jalix. I mean, there's your top 2 guys. I mean, you would think coming into the year they probably would have had Jalix. Well, can you get to earning 50% of the snaps by mid-year, or what? Can you get up to speed by that point? No, John, the deep end is right there. Jalix, you're going into it, my friend. How concerned are you, or not concerned?
Well, definitely a little bit. Yeah, I don't think you have that Nolan Smith level of elite traits from a athleticism standpoint. Very good athlete. Has a better frame to add weight, and that's been a big focus. The Eagles want him to add weight, get stronger. And he's been working on that this offseason. So, there's a lot more uncertainty with Jalix Hunt than Nolan Smith, I would say. And I still think there's a good chance that day one, even if the Eagles don't go outside and add somebody, I think there's a good chance that the other edge starter is going to be Ojulari or Uche. It's just a big leap for Jalix Hunt.
It is. It's a huge leap. It really is. Well, what's the ceiling on the other guys? I mean, Ojulari and Uche. I don't know. I think I feel better about Jalix Hunt.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't love it. I mean, it would. I think the Eagles' plan A is Jalix Hunt. I think they hope he wins the job. I think they hope he proves himself. But they did like Ojulari when he was coming out. I don't want to put him in a Saquon category, but I think Saquon did highlight just how bad the situation is in New York with the Giants, or has been with the Giants. So I think you can factor in some of that and give them a little bit of a path. I will say this, he's more equipped to, when you look at his traits and his sort of body, he's more of a natural edge rusher than either Smith or Hunt. He's the one with 34.5-inch arms. So I think the big hope lies with him as being sort of the hit of the Temu players, as we dub them. The goal is for him to be the hit. But he's had a lot of problems staying healthy. I think he's missed 22 games over the past 3 seasons. So, but I think he's the guy that they say, all right, this could be something. This could be a 10-sack guy if we get him going in the right direction. And maybe the Giants just screwed it up. I mean, it would hardly be surprising if they just screwed it up. It's a bad organization. It has been. So I think he's the guy that there's some hope that could really be, again, I don't want to compare him to Saquon, but can be somewhat of a hit. I don't even want to compare him to Zach Baun, because they signed Zach Baun for 1 year, $3.5 million, and they signed Ojulari for 1 year, $3 million, up to $4 million. So there's that natural comparison. I don't think he's going to be a first-team All-Pro, but there's a chance that the Giants are just so bad that he could take off here.
Yeah, I can see it. We'll see what ends up happening with that. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch, the edge rushing room. The Eagles did choose to not swing big though at the edge, so they obviously either feel good about the guys that they have, or it's a calculated risk that they're hoping pans out. I don't know what you think about that, but they made the choice to not swing big at edge. Now, maybe the contracts upcoming dictated that. Whatever you want to say, they did choose that. All right. So what do you think?
Well, yeah, but they chose not to swing big anywhere.
Well, yeah, but that could still bite you just because you just because.
Well, no, I'm saying they didn't make a concerted effort. The only thing I push back on is they didn't make a concerted effort to not swing big at the edge. They made a concerted effort to not swing big anywhere, because
which means though that they felt good about the guys they have in the edge rusher room.
Not necessarily. They are more worried about the other stuff coming. That's what I'm trying to say. That's where I disagree.
So the gamble would be, will that cost you or will it work out?
Exactly. So you're hopeful that you take these little shots, these little dart throws about Ojulari and Uche. But I guarantee if it doesn't work out, they'll be talking about edge rusher in the first round next year. My only pushback to your point was, yeah, they made a concerted effort not to swing big at edge rusher, because they made a concerted effort not to swing big anywhere.
Yeah, but where else would they have swung big this year? Maybe a safety,
corner.
They drafted 2 in the first 2 rounds last year.
Well, yeah, but they lost Slay, they lost Rogers, they lost Maddox, and they still need a second outside corner. They're hopeful that it's Kaylee, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to go cost effective with Kaylee. They're trying to go cost effective with Morrow. They're trying to go cost effective with Sydney.
I just felt like the most obvious area where a big swing was possible was the edge. I mean, you lost Sweat, you lost BG. You're coming in with a project player, developmental player in Jalen Hunt in year 2, and Nolan, who's really never proven to be a full season starter. That's the one spot I thought it was.
I think it's highlighted.
Where could the Eagles swing big? It would have been the edge, more so than any other position, at least in my estimation.
Well, from the standpoint of it's generally a position they value, yes, but it's the same as everywhere else in the fact that, all right, Hunt's a 3rd round pick. I mean, Ringo's a 4th round pick. Jomo's a 7th round pick.
Yeah, but Hunt, Hunt, yes, but Ringo they is coupled with 2 premium selections in last year's draft. Makuba is a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, but from the standpoint of it being the same, Hunt is coupled with remember who he's playing with. He's playing with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. It's the same as what all I'm trying to say. It's the same. They're going young and cost effective at each level of the defense, with the hopes that these guys develop in order and to get some value on rookie contracts so they can pay the big money for the guys, the stars coming up. That's the whole plan. That's been the whole plan of the offseason. They haven't picked out positions. They've been very disciplined. They're very consistent. This is the way we're going to do it. And they've stuck to that. The only slight movement off it was Dallas. Slight movement. I mean, even that was, they saved $4 million, and if he would have said no to that, he wouldn't be here. And that's the only slight deviation they've made. Maybe that changes in training camp, because maybe they understand that they have to add an edge rusher, but it's certainly not going to be Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt. It's going to be some guy you're not even thinking of. That's maybe on the third year of his deal is blocked somewhere else and they think has some upside.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Johns, keep rolling in a little bit on this conversation, moving into just some other training camp talk. What you wrote about the why am I blanking on this? I got to pull it up now again. Anias Smith you wrote about, John. You wrote about Anias Smith, and I wanted to talk about him. I feel like it's, John, I take pride and we talk about almost every player in this dang roster, top to bottom, undrafted, project players, practice squad guys, you name it, we talk about. We haven't talked much about Anias Smith, and you wrote about him. So I'm like, let me bring him up on the show. What is the expectation for Anias Smith as we enter year 2 of him?
Well, he's got to make the team this year. I think, he's one guy, 5th round pick, very, very high profile player from Texas A&M, skill position player. So he made a lot of big plays, a lot of splashy plays because he's sort of a hybrid manufactured touch guy in college. So I think people are very excited. They found a stress fracture in his shin at the combine. And that set him back. That's probably why he fell to where he fell. He also didn't have much of an off season because of that. And when he did get back, he started dropping the football, and you can see him lose some confidence. And there's our old buddy CJ Gardner-Johnson going, "You haven't done bleep in whole training camp." And I think, but Howie didn't want to cut him, and they kept him. They played some roster games, came up with an ankle injury. Sorry, Howie, but come on. And stuck around and kept him here. And this time around, he's got to make the team because, to be honest, he didn't deserve to make the team last year. But now the Eagles are deeper at wide receiver. One of the things of all the, hey, the Eagles might sign Tyler Boyd. The Eagles might sign Keenan Allen. I'm like, I think those people should be put in jail. I mean, it's just so dumb. First of all, the volume. First of all, John Dotson is darn good as a third receiver. Younger on a rookie deal. They're not going to throw the ball to the third receiver a lot. So barring injuries, but they have guys. Terrace Marshall, they signed 2nd round pick back a couple years ago in Carolina. Danny Gray's a 3rd round pick when he came out with San Francisco. They have guys with talent. They have more talent.
Safe at 3 though, right?
Yeah. Oh, very safe. Yeah. Unless they trade him, very safe.
Yeah, I just meant like Nias couldn't. You don't think Nias or Terrace would be taking snaps from him? Okay, just clarifying.
No. Now I could see them if Terrace Marshall sort of really has a really good summer and say, hey, you know what? Let's spin off John Dotson and get like that edge rusher I'm talking about. I could see them doing that. So I leave the door open to that. But that would be guys behind him or Danny Gray, guys behind him. Really performing well in the summer, making them very comfortable. But this is the deepest wide receiver group they've had in forever. So to me, there's a very small path for Anias Smith to make this team. And it's basically to be that manufactured touch guy who can do things, jet sweeps, reverses, even from the backfield occasionally, and be the punt returner. And it's a very small path because they signed Avery Williams to be the returner. But he didn't practice in the spring because he's dealing with some kind of injury. So everything's on the table. But Anias had his youth football camp down in his hometown, which is near Houston, Missouri City, I believe, Texas. But he had his youth football camp, and he's lost weight, and he says he feels more explosive. And hopefully you get the same guy he was at Texas A&M back, because he was a playmaker, man. I mean, he played receiver mainly, but he also ran the ball from the backfield. He was a great punt returner. He had 2 punt return touchdowns. He kick returned as well. He could do a bunch of different things. And that to me is how he's got to make this team. Because obviously, AJ's a better receiver. Devontae's a better receiver. Jahan's a better receiver. Marshall's a better receiver. Gray's a better receiver. Maybe even Johnny Wilson. All that. I wouldn't go that far, but Johnny's going to make the team for his blocking ability on a run-first offense. He's really up against it from a numbers perspective. And to me, he's got to be the punt returner. And can he beat out Avery Williams to be the punt returner? Very small path. But you never know. Because he was a hell of a college player. That I will say.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, dare I say it? What do you think changes with Kevin Patullo? Any more motion? Any screens? What
motion? Nobody talks about motion anymore.
I know. It's like gone are the days of the motion conversation. When
Gotta get motion.
Kellen Moore came here. I don't know. What do you think looks different? I can't.
Well, they did use a little bit more motion.
Yeah, a little bit. Nothing crazy.
But nobody cares about it. When you're effective, nobody cared about it in 2022. When you're effective, nobody cares about it. No, I mean, it's got the Eagles offense is going to look like the Eagles offense because the Eagles offense has been built around the quarterback, and the Eagles offense will continue to be around the quarterback. So whatever you want to call it, the Eagles offense, the Jalen Hurts offense, it will look very, very similar to previous years with the hope of added evolution of the player, of the quarterback getting more comfortable, processing quickly and getting better. One thing Jalen does, I think is an underrated trait is he picks one thing that he knows he needs to get better in the off season and works at it tirelessly. I think a lot of people like to practice what they're good at. And I think the goal should be to practice what you're not good at. And I think Jalen knows that and does it and practices it and puts it into, a lot of people can talk about it, but he actually does it. And I think that's important. And that's why he keeps getting better. Whereas the natural inclination is I'm really good at this. Let me just keep getting better and better. And I think it would surprise a lot of people that most people don't do that. Most athletes don't do that.
You think Johnny Wilson's a lock to make the team?
I wouldn't say lock, but I would say he's very close to being a lock. I do my 100%ers. Those are the locks. And 100% means 100%.
Yeah.
Barring injury, they're going to make the team. He didn't reach that threshold for me.
That doesn't surprise me.
But he's close to a lock because he is really unique from a blocking perspective, and that's important for them. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a 2022 look, really 21. So you have Ben at fullback, and Johnny Wilson is the only receiver on the field, and trying to go things about that way and certain running downs. But boy, he's got to start catching the football better if he wants to stick around long term, because that would be a very limited sub package. Probably an effective sub package, but a very limited sub package.
I got to think those hands are going to come into play at some point. I don't want to write the guy off, but last year he had a bad showing when it came in the hands department of catching the football.
Well, a lot of times it is just, when you're a rookie, the ball doesn't come your way a lot. Nias had the same problem.
When it does come your way, make the catch.
Well, I mean, that was the issue with Quez Watkins, years into his career. When you don't get that, I always compare it to utility players in baseball. When you don't get a lot of opportunities, and then it's Sunday, and the manager says, go out there and play, and you got to play different positions. it's a unique ability to do that. A lot of guys need to get into a groove, which is more the natural part of it. And obviously you're not going to get a lot of touches if you're the 4th or 5th receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles, to say the least. You're not going to get a lot of touches. So, he adds a trait that they find valuable. He's 6'6" plus. He's over 230 pounds. There aren't a lot of receivers that big. And this is a run-first team. And he can block people. And I think they find that valuable. Will they find it valuable consistently down the road? Probably not. At some point, he's going to have to show up as a receiver in this league somewhere, probably not Philadelphia. But for this year, I think, yeah, he's probably going to be on the roster.
We got some funny comments in here, man. My guy JW couldn't catch DUI if he was pulled over hammered. Johnny Wilson couldn't catch COVID in 2020. No hands.
This is all related to one drop. Whatever.
I don't know. He had a couple, didn't he? I know he had a Super Bowl drop.
Well, he had a Super Bowl. That's what it's
scrambling out of the pocket of the Super Bowl. He flicks it to Johnny Wilson. Oh no, he can't catch it.
He's not here to catch it right now. And I don't think he'll ever be here to catch it, to be honest. But it's a role player. They value the role. Not everybody has to be a star. You need role players.
I know. I'm just messing with him. But
it's always the thing. Will got chased down. Johnny dropped the ball in the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, John, it's fair to think a guy gets drafted to the National Football League as a wide receiver. He wouldn't have stones for hands. I mean, that's not crazy to think.
Well, I think one drop in the Super Bowl is not stones for hand. I mean,
how many drops did he have last year?
First of all, I know he dropped one in the regular season. I don't know if he dropped more.
I know he had the touchdown catch. That was when Jalen was in the pocket for like 20 seconds.
I mean, look, he's not Chris Carter.
No, he's not.
But my whole point is when you have role players like Johnny Wilson or insert name, and people expect them or will, to use that example, and people expect him to be A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's your fault. If you're, role players are role players. They're there to do a specific thing. In the case of Johnny, that's block. That's not catch the football. And if Johnny was your starting receiver, then you'd have big issues. Then I'd be on board with you. But he's not. He's there to block. And he's good at it. And yes, if the ball ultimately does come his way once in a blue moon, you hope he catches it.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world. They did fine in the Super Bowl with this big drop. So that's what I would say to that.
You like Johnny Wilson, I think.
No, I don't like him at all. I wouldn't keep him.
Oh man, that is
by the way, Johnny, if Johnny's listening, which I hope he isn't, but I'm not personally. I think Johnny's a very good dude. As a player, I don't think he's. But again, I'm projecting as the fifth receiver, he's fine. Is he going to go farther than that? I wouldn't bet on that.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. That was funny though. Oh my goodness, that was funny. Don't criticize the hands too much, but Johnny Mack wouldn't keep it around here. That was good stuff.
Well, I'm saying as the people, the way people evaluate, which is, can he turn into a starting receiver in the NFL? No, absolutely not. Can he offer value as a fifth receiver? Yes, which I think he already has.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's damn good at blocking, that's for sure. He blocks every pass thrown his way. All right.
Well, I'm glad we
done
get
ragging on
people.
Johnny Wilson.
At least we gave people an opportunity to get off their best one-liners. But
I don't want to beat up on Johnny Wilson too bad.
I don't. He's in the NFL. Yeah, I think people played at Arizona State.
Great, obviously. I mean,
Yeah, played at Arizona State
Yeah.
and Florida State. Caught a lot of passes in college. I think he's better than the vast majority of people on earth at catching footballs. But when measured against people who are really elite, he's not good.
That's fine. It's a good way to put it, John. It's a good way to put it.
Well, I always, we were having that discussion with Mike Gill a couple of weeks ago. You'd be amazed if you watch Ben Simmons shoot threes in pregame or
I know it's true. He cashes them.
I mean, yeah, people don't understand the difference between average rate and elite rates. And Johnny's kind of average rate when it comes to catching the football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, good stuff, everybody. Johnny Wilson, if you're listening, we love you and we appreciate your blocking. All right, you've done well, and you got a roll here in Philly. So we're not going to beat up on you too much about the stone hands, but I digress. Let's get to our next commercial break, John. When we come back, we only have about 15 minutes left. We'll wrap it up with some more talk on the training camp previews as we get closer to under 2 weeks now, everybody. So it is right around the corner. I'm ready to go. John, I can sense that you're ready to go. I know everybody in the chat is ready to go. Oh, Kimberly, I did get your super. I apologize. Let me get that up right now before we get our break. Kimberly says, thank you, Kimberly, for your support as always. She says, J-Mac, any word on what Vic thinks about Munden?
Small Munden. Well, he's here, so Vic likes his upside. But yeah, I mean, he's going to make the team, and he's going to be the last linebacker, developmental guy. I do think he's got some potential. He's a longer, lengthier linebacker. A lot of people like to make the Nakobe comparisons because they're both from Georgia, but I don't think they're similar players at all. I think Smiles more of the long, lengthy guy, playing middle linebacker, great athlete, can run. Whereas Nakobe's obviously a little bit undersized, has the great instincts. So they're a little bit different, but yeah, I he's going to make the team, no doubt about that. He's going to help on special teams, but he's probably not going to be relevant when it comes to playing on defense. And if he is, that means that's a bad thing because that means there's been a lot of injuries or continued injuries since they still have to get Nakobe healthy and Jihad healthy. But yeah, they like him. Vic likes him. They're not drafting people that Vic doesn't like. They learned that.
Yeah, I agree.
In the signing. But for Smile, it's a great coach to be around, and so is Bobby King, who Bobby deserves a lot of credit because he was there when Bobby King is the guy who works with him on a daily basis and developed 2 top 10 linebackers out of basically nowhere. But people knew what Nakobe was in college, but he had not done anything. And all of a sudden he took off. And obviously Zach Bond just came out of left field. Yeah. So good place to be for Smile.
You think he has a chance to unseat Trotter? Maybe not this year?
No, not this. Certainly not this year. They like Trotter as well. Yeah, if you want to envision, if you want to get to 2026, it's likely Nakobe's not here. It's likely Zach and Jihad, and then Trotter and Smile as the backups would be the plan, the longer term plan.
Yep. Good stuff. Look at this. Someone made a burner. Johnny Wilson, burner, $2. I don't like you either, John.
No, I said specifically I like Johnny as a person. But yeah, and that's part of the difficulty of this job. So because you do like people and you have to give your honest, objective opinion. which is my opinion of Johnny Wilson, is better than most of the fans, evidently, because I think he's a valuable role player, but I think he's a role player. I don't even think that's much of an insult. Is he ever going to be Chris Carter? No. That's not going to happen. How many Chris Carters are there? It's the best hands ever, by the way. So,
Devontae Smith's got some pretty damn good hands too, John.
He does.
Yeah.
No one will surpass Chris Carter.
No, I'm not saying he's surpassing Chris Carter. I'm just saying from the guys on the team, Devontae Smith's hands are crazy. Some of the catches he's made are nuts.
AJ's hands are crazy.
Yeah, they're both crazy. We got two incredible receivers in Philly. We really do. I mean, it's a special two players that we have at receiver right now for sure.
Yes, I would say so. People have gotten spoiled very quickly, forgotten how bad it was for how long at receiver.
Yep. Good stuff. Johnny Wilson, thanks for the super chat. Even though you're shitting on us, look at Zeal. He says, I would give my left nut to be a role player on a Super Bowl champion. Well, I wouldn't give that.
Yeah, I want to keep my left nut.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, Zeal, I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah. It's not that important to me. Right. Well, I know it's more important to you guys, but yeah, I mean.
Well, I'm 27. That thing is as important as it gets for me. All right. So no, thank you.
Well, the Super Bowl is not important. Yeah. I'm
old. It's far more
I'm
important.
old and I'm still keeping my left nut. I don't give a rat's ass.
John says that is a line I will not cross.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. All right, everybody. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, just 10 minutes left to go on the show. When we get back, appreciate everybody being here. Hit the like button for us. What are we at? 100? Can we get the 150? Come on, smash the like button. We appreciate it. We'll be right back in 3 minutes on Birds 365.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, we got this.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Thrill Seekers and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, wrapping up another day of the show here. We'll have a football Friday tomorrow. Boy, this week went quick. I'll say that. It feels like it was yesterday. It was Monday. But we're moving right along here. Hope everybody has a great upcoming weekend. Some good stuff planned. Johnny Mac, just 10 minutes left to go on the show today. And I want to close it with a conversation about our projected or speculated camp darlings this year. You got 3 names in mind that you think are going to be the camp, camp sweethearts of this year, Johnny Mac?
Darlings.
Yeah, camp darlings.
Well, I think APR, Antoine Powell Ryland, is going to be a camp darling for obvious reasons. I think we talked about on the show how edge rusher is a lot of uncertainty, and I think he's a natural sort of pass rusher, way more advanced than your average rookie from a technique and fundamental standpoint. And he's going to be going against backup tackles the entire camp. So I think he's going to look good. And I think people are going to get really hyped about that. So he's my obvious prediction. Antoine Powell Ryland.
Yeah, I like that one.
Normally, then when he gets to practice against Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, it will stop like a brick wall. But anyway, he's not going to get that opportunity. So he's my obvious one. And then it's always easier for skill position people to stand out for obvious reasons. So I look at receivers, and from doing this a long time, I know people get enamored by long, lengthy receivers like Johnny Wilson. Now people have already shit on Johnny Wilson. They have a guy by the name of Elijah Cooks that they haven't seen. Now he is he was hurt in the spring, so got to see if he's healthy. Eagles don't have to disclose specific injuries at that time of year. So don't know what he was dealing with, but did see him a bunch and he seemed okay. It didn't seem serious. And he's like 6'4", 220. So he'll probably make a couple contested catches, which are always big in camp, and people will get excited by that. That's one of my predictions. It's another guy we talk about that you hear everybody. You just heard Elijah Cooks on this show. So remember that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go to Maxon Hook at safety, because I think safety is going to be a big issue in camp, similar to edge defender. I think you're going to have some growing pains.
More guys maybe rotating in and out of there.
Yeah, you'll see the most rotating there. And I'm not saying he's going to get first team reps, because he's behind Sydney, he's behind Makuba, he's behind Tristan McCullum, he's even behind Andre Sam and Lewis Seen. But I think ultimately he's going to start rising up the depth chart. He's going to pass the bottom 2 guys pretty quickly. And I think people are going to get a little bit excited by him. And I'll throw in a bonus in Mac McWilliams, because he's got, I saw in the spring, he's got some juice with him, and he can play inside, outside. So I'll throw him in the mix as well.
Yeah. Agreed on that front, Johnny Mac. Good names there. Some good names. Maxon Hook. I like Maxon Hook, the Toledo guy. Was he the one he was roommates with Quinyon?
Right? He was, Quinyon's roommate. Yeah. Yeah, Nick Sirianni's got the Toledo connection. His old college roommate is the head coach there, Jason Candle. Jason Candle was Nick Sirianni's roommate, position coach, because he's a year older, and he started his coaching career right away at Mount Union. So he was his roommate, became his position coach, and then he was his landlord, because, he let Nick live in his house at Mount Union. So those two are very close.
Yeah.
And they were at each other's weddings and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's good. It's good. I'm excited for camp, John. I will say, John, and I don't know if maybe this is my Eagle fandom getting in the way, but I really believe that the Eagles organization has assembled a special group of players. Like I think this is just a good unit. I mean, you got obviously the talent aside for a second. I just believe it's a good group of guys that you want to go to war with. I don't know what you think of that. I don't know. Maybe you don't even have an opinion on that, but I think they are a great group of players that they have here, a special group and a young group. And the sky's the limit for these guys.
I think it's a good group of guys, but I do think that, when you win, everything's copacetic.
That makes sense.
Losing, I was around great players, and when things go badly, they go badly.
But personalities matter, don't you? Like in a locker room, you know what I mean? And I feel like the Eagles do have a good group of guys with good motives, with the right mindset about winning, about process, about culture, about money. I think they have I just think they have a special group. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's my Eagle fandom coming through, and you're right. If they lost last year, none of those things would be said. But you couple in all the championship caliber that they have, I think it's a special group of players.
I think they pay more attention to it. I think they're better than most teams, but I do think winning plays into it. Yeah. Like there's always, now we know Bryce Huff, now we know CJ. There's always, and if things go, and you saw little trickles of during the season of, where's the passing game, and on all of that stuff I'm not going to bring up, but winning plays into that. When Darren Sproles got in a fight once with, there's Golden Tate, and there's always, if you don't win, there's issues.
Yeah,
doesn't matter, because you have 90 different people will come to camp. Ultimately, when you whittle it down to 53 plus 17, you got 70 people. They're not all buying into the process, but the Eagles do a better job than anybody else. I think it's fair to say that, to try to get the right kind of people. But look, when you lose, shit comes up, and that's never going to change.
It's fair. It's fair. Still got to have talent's great. Got to have the right group of guys, and I think they do, or for the most part. But I'm not saying you're wrong. If they lost, maybe it would be perceived a little bit differently. But they didn't, and maybe that's the reason they didn't, is because they did have a good group of guys. John, I'll play the other side.
Well, you can make that argument. I think it's because they had a bunch of really freaking good players, as our top 25 indicates. I mean, they're loaded from a talent standpoint. So I'll always, no matter what, as long as we do this show, I'll always default to talent first over coaching, scheme, culture. Give me the best players. I'll figure out the rest.
Yep. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. We've been rolling right along, man. This offseason is absolutely flying, and we are less than 2 weeks out from the Eagles being on the football field. We'll be doing football 24/7s. I mean, I'm ready to rock, Johnny Mac. The season is right around the corner. The Chargers, I think, report tomorrow or 2 days from now. So the NFL world is kicking back into high gear. We're in the dog days of summer.
Yeah.
We're almost over here on
Yeah. Training camp is coming. The grind is coming. I got to get ready.
John, we got to come up with, all right, we got to come up with this. And last year you were a part of it, so I'm going to make you a part of it again this year. By training camp, we got to come up with our giveaway. Like last year it was Saquon. What did we do? Over 125 yards in a game. Yeah. We got to come up with something this year that would constitute a giveaway on a weekly basis based on the game. So
I think we might have to go. I'm just, off the top of my head, I think we're going to have to go passing yards.
Jalen Hurts? I'm thinking so too.
What the number is, 230. That might be too low. I don't want to put you in a spot but they don't.
Yeah, I don't mind. Listen, if it's a lot, it's a lot. Last year I gave away So many more jerseys on top of the giveaways.
Let me look up real quick. See how many games they went over 250. Maybe we'll make it 250.
Well, 4,000. Let's say 4,000 yards passing divided by 17 games would be 235 per game.
Well, yeah, there's no way he's getting 4,000. So,
no way. You don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, he had what, 3,800, I think, was his most ever in a season.
Yeah. I mean, and that's when they threw at 500, and that's when they didn't have Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
So I think that's I don't think there's a but
he says passing yards per game, we're never gonna get a jersey. Come on, Brian.
So all right, here's the numbers from last year: 242, 185. No, wait, am I looking at the right thing? So 1, 2, 3, 4 games over 240. So why don't we make it 240?
240? That's not bad. How many games are there over 240?
4.
4? I got to give away more than 4 jerseys.
Not counting the playoffs. Well, I expect them to pass the ball.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's say that number goes to 8. And you guys know I'm going to be once my guy gets back around, I'm looking at it. Wait. I'm giving away at least 35 to 50 jerseys this year, at least.
No, that I'm just looking at advanced passing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. No, still 4. 4. So yeah, I think that's a decent number. Maybe 250 because they have to pass it more. 240. Well, we'll discuss that, but 240, 250.
But I think you're right in that it has to be pertaining to the passing yard. I think you're right about that because that's been kind of the concern. So we'll do that. Johnny Mac, great stuff. Your final thoughts on this Thursday edition, Johnny Mac of Birds 365. Well done today, as always.
Final thoughts. I got no final thoughts today. I'm empty. But I enjoy talking about, in all seriousness, the Johnny Wilsons of the world and bringing up some people that Elijah Cooks and Max and Hook. And
we'll go down that route maybe a little bit on tomorrow's edition. Go down a little bit more.
Because I think there's only a few people in town that can talk about these people in an intelligent fashion, and they have platforms where they're not allowed to talk about them because it doesn't drive interest.
Can be a little boring, but it is worth it. And we pride ourselves on the people who listen to this show being very educated Eagles fans.
Yeah. Well, at least, hopefully people enjoy it, but maybe we can't. Maybe it bites us in the ass.
Nobody's telling us what we can and cannot do. Johnny Mac, great stuff today, brother. We'll catch you tomorrow on a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Great stuff today on a Thursday edition of Birds 365. Great segments, as always, today here on the show. Got a couple of things to touch on before I get out of Dodge today. We'll talk about the giveaways that we're going to do. So good stuff there. And I got to run today. I don't have much time. So for those who've been following along, I got the new car last week. Well, when you get a new car and you live outside of Philly, you know what you got to do when you get a new car. You got to put tints. So I'm going to get my tints done at 10:30, and it's about 20 minutes away. So I got to get out of Dodge. So I'm going to do that, and I'm excited for it. Anybody know the tint game? Like, what do you recommend on percentage? I'm probably going to go 15 or 20. Probably going to go 15 or 20 on the side windows. We'll do that. I got some interesting. Should be good. I'm excited to do that, honestly, today. Donnie Floor says Birds 365 with a morning coffee. Nothing like it, Donnie Floor. Nothing like it, my friend. Fredo says we effing love Birds 365. Thank you, Fredo. Show's been killing it. Thanks to all you guys. I appreciate it very much. Keese is in here. What's up, Keese? Shit is illegal in Jersey. It's illegal everywhere, Brian. I don't give a shit. All right? I don't care, Brian. It's illegal here, too. You got to have like 70% or something. I'm like, no. I'm not driving through Philly in a vet with all these dudes creeping in my windows. You know? Criminals avoid what they cannot see. Okay? Criminals avoid what they cannot see behind. last person they want to fuck with in Philly would be me. All right. All right. I hit the range. I know what I'm doing. Okay. Fishbowl vet. That's what I got right now, Keith. Fishbowl is gone. 15 at the most. Yeah, 15 is pretty dark, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm going 15 probably. That's what I went on my Stang back in the day. I went 15. So I'll probably go 15. 20 if I want to go a little later. But, it's probably illegal in most states, honestly. I don't really care. It's one of those things that you don't get pulled over for it, but if you get pulled over, they'll tack it on. Type one of those things. I haven't been pulled over I've never been pulled over in my life. Do I have a license to carry? I absolutely do have a license to carry. Yes. It's right here. Where is it? It's right in this wallet somewhere. There's a picture of my girl in my wallet wearing a Kango. Isn't that funny? Wearing a Kango hat. There's my license to carry right there. License to carry. Got that, obviously. Get out of here, Zander. Go enjoy your vet. I will. Don't worry. Don't worry. What was I about to say? I was about to say something, though. Shit, I forget. I know what I was about to say. I haven't been pulled over really ever in my life. But check this out. So these are like a thing that people obviously like to have. I'm not going to show it too much, but this right here is an FOP card, Fraternal Order of Police. Most people, when you use an FOP card, they take them for the most part. All right, it's kind of like not a get out of jail card, but like if you're respectful and you have it, they'll let you go more often than they wouldn't if you didn't have it. Okay, it's kind of how I put it. But that was issued in 2008. All right, my dad was good friends with the lieutenant, with one of the lieutenants down at the Philadelphia Police Department. 2008, he was given that. It's never been used. So I think that'll go. I think that'll go in my favor too if I ever use it. All right. So we got a couple of them, but FOP is gross. ACAB. I know, Secunda. Yeah. You just want complete recklessness all over the world. That would be what a great world that would be, Secunda, with zero cops patrolling anywhere. What a beautiful world we would live in, right, Secunda? Come on, John. John, you can be liberal. John, speak in real life circumstance. All cops are bad. What a stupid thing to say. I mean, are you kidding me? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. Complete lawlessness 100% through. We'll be a third world country in a year. Come on, man. Come on. Wake up. All right. I love all you guys. Even you, Secunda. I love you, brother. You know I do, Secunda, even though you're a goofy sometimes. All right? I don't care that you're a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm also not one of the people that's like, if you don't vote like me, then I don't like you. I think that's a dumb way to live. I really do. But I appreciate all of you guys. Love all you guys. Let me get out of here because I got to go. If you ain't early, you're late. So let me get over there. I got to run. Appreciate each and every one of you. See you next time, everybody, on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.